Hey everyone, I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to a very special episode of VO Buzz Weekly. We are here at the SAG Foundation Actors Center in Los Angeles, California, home to the Don LaFontaine Voiceover Lab, to honor the king of voiceover, Don LaFontaine.
That's right. And check this out, guys. Don has voiced more than 5,000 movie trailers, hundreds of thousands of radio and TV commercials and promos. And based on signed contracts, he has earned a distinction of being the busiest actor in the history of the Screen Actors Guild.
Don passed away on September 1st, 2008, but his influence is still felt around the world by voice actors. We wanted to celebrate his life by talking to the 4 people who knew him the best. So come with us as we take an intimate journey into the life, the work, and the legacy of the great Don LaFontaine.
This summer, he became a true champion in his search for the real story. If you thought you had seen one of the year's 10 best fall in love with the greatest war hero, his spirit can be a beautiful thing. Now, our greatest threat is making a world of difference. Their love of sequels come in small packages. Next semester, they've met their match. Now, trapped in one body, the world is going nutty till the fat lady sings. Then, somewhere in the Far East, this is okay. Get ready. There's only one sponge you can turn to. Until it came after him. And then, there are these guys. No cop can touch them. You have to see it to believe it.
I'm a winner!
Okay, everybody, it is our privilege to welcome our guests. Let's start with Don's lovely, stunning, talented wife, Nita Whitaker LaFontaine. And to her left, we have Don's only agent for his entire career, Steve Tischerman.
That's right. And then we have his great buddies over there, and also co-founders of this amazing Don LaFontaine lab, voiceover lab. We have Paul Pate and Joe Cipriano, awesome dudes.
Thanks, Chuck.
You got it.
Thank you, awesome.
Hey!
Yeah.
You guys
Welcome,
are
you
way
guys.
lovely intro. Yeah, right?
Thank you so much for being here. This
Absolutely.
is
Oh, it's
such
great.
a privilege for us and for everyone watching to get inside the life of the man that really, I don't know, made it possible for us all to be sitting here in many ways.
Yeah. And Stacy will probably cry during this episode.
I
She
will.
did at home while we were
I did.
practicing things that we were going to say,
I
because she's
did.
very, very touched by
Yeah.
the whole thing. I personally have never met Don, but I've heard stories, and I want to meet Don. It's like, I want to come back. So we're going to start off by, I want to ask you guys, because you're so close to him, I want to find out how each one of you met Don.
Santa Monica Boulevard. That's what he would say.
Well,
He would say.
Why don't you start?
Which block, actually?
Go ahead. Tell us how you met Don.
Let's see, I met Don at a nightclub. I was singing. I just moved into town from Louisiana, and I was singing in a nightclub, and he was there as a judge and friend of the owner of the club. It was called the Rose Tattoo. It was in West Hollywood, actually, off of Santa Monica Boulevard.
Okay.
And that was my first time meeting him. We just said hello, exchanged hello. He said, I like your voice. And I said, thank you. And that was our first meeting. And it wasn't until later that we started dating, but that was how we met. He heard my voice, and then he said hello to me, and I heard his voice. I was like,
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that.
No, you didn't do that.
No, that was not. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't love at or second or third.
Yeah.
But he was just a guy that a friend
Had
of
you
mine
heard
knew.
of him before?
No.
No.
I didn't know. He was just a guy with blue eyes, and he shook my hand. I enjoyed your voice. I said, thank you.
I like your voice too.
Yeah, and I said, well, okay, thank you. And off I went, and then I would see him at the club subsequently, and finally he said, can I take you out to dinner after 4 months? And I said, you are such a jokester. You take me out to dinner. He's like, no, really. And so we went out to dinner, and I was like, oh, he's kind of fun.
Wow,
And
that's
it just
cool.
kind of grew from there.
That's fantastic. And I have to ask you this, but what kind of a club was this Rose Tattoo place?
It was a gay bar during the week. And on Sunday nights, it would
And that's
become...
where Don hung out.
Well, there
on
you
Sunday
go.
nights, anyway. It was a gay bar all week, and then on Sunday nights, it would become a singing room for young singers. It was
Okay,
called
cool.
Stardom Pursuit,
No,
and we could come
I think
and
I went
sing. Oh gosh, you probably did. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's really cool.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
I met him in the bathroom at the Rose Tattoo, downstairs.
What is this with the Rose
That was
Tattoo?
too easy. I'm sorry.
great setup.
That was a good one.
I had a producer client of mine tell me about this guy named LaFontaine who was coming to the West Coast to head up the Kaleidoscope Films production company, vice president. Now, I had heard of him as a producer. I really didn't know his voice, but I think I heard some things. I said, this guy's very good. So he said, a producer client of mine said, why don't you call him? So he got me the number, and I called him. And at first, it was, getaway kid. I'm doing work here. I'm a vice president. I haven't got time to concentrate on voiceover. So. But persistence. He said later it was about 8 phone calls. And by the 8th one, he said, okay, we'll talk. So he came in, we talked. And he said, I'll see you, if I can give you some time, we'll do some voiceover. He was still going to be the vice president. But he would do voiceovers, and I can take that on and see what we can do. And that's how it started.
So you basically stalked him until he let you represent
I
him.
later found out that
awesome.
he was putting the key in his new apartment
Yeah.
that he had just rented. And as he's opening the door, the phone is ringing. It's me. Maybe my third phone call. And it was Kismet, it seemed to me. At that time, we didn't know, but
That is fantastic.
And then you started your agency,
I had started
TGND,
it.
with Don and a few other clients,
Yes.
right?
It was strictly voiceover, and I wasn't interested in on-camera. I later added on-camera to it, but I loved voiceover. That was my first love because it's so much more interesting. We got to submit actors on tape in those days, and they would listen to the auditions that I recorded in my office.
Right.
But they got to hear what I wanted them to hear, as opposed to on camera, the casting director would have the yes and the no pile, saying who she wanted to see, who she didn't want to see. She heard everybody I wanted her to hear. She may not have liked everyone, but
Yeah.
Right.
my impetus was something they had to listen to. So that was the fun part.
Yeah. Wow, we miss those days,
A lot has changed.
right? Paul,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
got to
there's
be
a-
interesting.
There's kind of a common thread here because
Yeah?
Were
I
you
was
at
in
the
the
Rose
gym
Tattoo?
working out. I was in the gym working out, and this guy came up and he said he was really admiring the rose tattoo I had on my lower back, my lower back there. And I was like going, yeah, I just had it done. It was cool. It was one of the early people. I had one of the very first, they call them tramp
I think I
stamps.
read about
I had one of the very first
Right,
ones,
well,
actually.
I
Yeah.
read about you.
I had it removed a
I
couple years ago. It was very painful.
Right.
Very painful.
Good for you, because we were
Well,
going to
now
make
you
you
can
show
do
it.
the bathing suit modeling,
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
yeah.
it was, it was, yeah. But he had, that's how it started. In truth, in the 70s, I had the good fortune to co-star in a movie called Saturday Night Fever, and
Double
which
J.
we've
Double
all
J.
seen.
Double J.
Double J.
and I was back. There was this big rap party that Paramount was throwing at the time. It would be the hot ticket to launch all the summer movies out here. And I really wanted to go to this party because I wanted to impress this girl I was dating and all. So I called back there to the publicity department, which I was working with, and they said, yeah, we'll work it out. There's this guy, Don, it's his whole deal. We'll work it out. So Don agreed to do it, but he was a fan of the movie. He says, I'll do it if this guy and I can meet. So I said, sure. So the party came, and we kept missing each other all night. He ran into my co-star, Donna Pescow, and we were missing each other all night. So it never came to be. So I called him in New York. I apologized. I said, I'm coming back to do more publicity. I'll take you out to lunch, just to say thanks. And he was like, yeah, sure, right. And he was doing this. So I went back with the sole purpose of doing that, and I got there, and I went over to his office, and I walked in, and here's this short little guy sitting behind a desk. And I looked at him and said, no, look how tall you are. No wonder I missed you in the crowd.
Oh,
That's where it
man.
started.
And Anita will tell you, that was the start of 31 years of nonstop mutual abuse. He looked at me,
I love it.
took a long pause. He took a long pause, and he went, you and I are going to lunch, and I'm buying. And I could go on and on about, maybe I'll get to some of the other, but
You will get to
Yes.
some of them, because we're going
that's
to
how
ask
we met,
about some of
and
them.
it was pretty relentless, and it was great. 31 years.
That's so
My
great,
best-
man.
my
Awesome.
best
That's so
friend.
great. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Joey?
Joe.
Yes.
How did you meet Don?
Well, I spent most of my career trying to get to Los Angeles, and I finally got to Los Angeles. And so for me, Don LaFontaine was always that voice in the dark.